You're listening to episode 82, Booming Your Bottom Line. Ageism. We're starting to hear a lot about that in the news, both in and outside of our own niche. I bet when you heard the word I just said, you have an instant negative reaction to it. Why? Because when you hear it, you probably immediately think of age discrimination, don't you? Well, it's partly true. We're going to get to the heart of ageism today, what it really is, why you're most likely guilty of it, and what it's doing to your business. But of course, we'll tell you how to put a stop to that. So, what is ageism? Well, simply defined, it's a prejudice or discrimination on the basis of a person's age. And if you work with folks that are any age, 60 to 80 or beyond a lot, you're probably guilty of ageism. Did you hear me? I said if you work with your target market, you're probably guilty of ageism. Now, you might be wondering how I can say that, and here's the truth. You've heard that old adage, right? Familiarity breeds contempt. Why is that true? Well, familiarity conditions us over time. As we're exposed to something over and over, it lulls us into having preconceived ideas, prejudices, and habits that, regardless of how well-meaning you might be, will have you speaking and acting like an ageist.
Yeah, so let's say that you're a remodeler and you primarily work with customers who are over 65 that need work done in their homes to make them more accessible. And you've been doing that for 10 years. Now, you've probably seen a ton of things in these homes over time. Sickness, injury, frailty, dementia, the list goes on. And under those circumstances, as a defense mechanism, your mind helps you get accustomed to being exposed to those things so you can deal with it at an emotional level. And it helps you by detaching from it. Well, before you know it, your brain gets rewired and you start to think about those, and I use air quotes, old people, and your brain begins to attribute what you've experienced, as sickness, frailty, dementia, neediness, to all older people. And eventually, those old people are everyone over the age of 65. Now, that's an oversimplification of a pretty complex psychological experience, but it's fairly accurate as to how it happens. Now, does that make you a bad person? Well, of course not. That's the way we humans deal with things. And I can tell you from personal experience, and I know Aaron can say the same thing, we've got stories, heart-wrenching stories. We've all got those stories. We've all been there. But ultimately, that defense mechanism is keeping you from being your best by paving the way for ageism to creep into your thoughts and actions. Now, you see, when we allow this to be ingrained in our thinking, it begins to affect our decisions. You begin using certain words that you very much intend to be flattering or nice, but ones that come off as being condescending. You say, "Oh, you're not old," when someone comments on their age, or you think, "That poor dear," when you see a woman who looks to be in her 70s in a grocery store that seems lost. Now, you might say, "Mark, I'm just being caring." So was that sympathy for the lady in the grocery store? Did you feel pity or sorrow for her? Because that's the definition of sympathy. And if you feel that because you assume she's frail because she looks old, or is lost or confused because she matches the story of old and you have in your head, that reaction could be ageism. Because you are assuming there's something wrong with her, that she is frail in some way, broken, or needs help. But what if she wasn't lost or confused? Maybe it's just the store is so dang big and they're constantly moving that one thing that she needs, and she's always trying to find it.
Right. Again, oversimplified maybe as an example, but I hope you get what we're saying. And here's the thing. Where this really gets interesting is what happens to people when we make these assumptions about them, when they see or experience our words or actions in response to our story of old in our head. According to the book Stereotyping and Prejudice, Changing Conceptions by Bartal, Grauman, Kruglansky, and Strobe, when someone's subjected to stereotyping or prejudice based on those things you've got going on in your head, those scripts, they begin to take those characteristics on. They begin to reflect the stereotypes they're being
Mm-hmm.
subjected to. So, when we act, even from an emotional standpoint of caring, when we act in a way that infers a stereotype, we're projecting that onto the people who are likely nothing like that story and script in our head of what an old person is, or somebody of any age, to be honest. But when they've experienced it enough, they'll begin to become that. And it goes down the age scale as easily as it goes up. We hear parents say things to their kids like, "You're too young to do that." Or we heard in school, "When you're older, you can make those decisions for yourself, but until then, it's my rules. I'm the adult." We might hear it in the workforce for, employees that are getting up in age. Maybe that person's saying, "Those young pups think they can just come in here and throw around their ideas and think things are going to change." I just did it right there, right?
Yeah.
Changing my tone of voice, pretending to be, I don't know, in my head, somebody over 50, but for God's sakes, I'm 42. What am I doing? Okay, but you see where I'm going with it, right? Now, I think we can all agree that a person who's 20 has the same value as a person that's 70, right? And based on contribution, let's say the person that finds a cure for cancer is 75. His contribution or hers is no less impact than if the person that discovered it is 30. Can we agree on that?
Yep.
So the issue of defining age is just plain wrong. It all in the spectrum. There are 14-year-old entrepreneurs inventing things right now that'll change the world, and there's 70-year-olds doing amazing work too.
So, what's this doing in your business then? Well, it likely has effects in ways that you can't even perceive. But trust me when I say your potential clients can. For instance, to a growing number of people, speech or actions that seem or appear to be ageist, they're seen as insulting and condescending, even if it's only their perception, because their perception is their own truth. Now, this negative idea of ageism is gaining steam and public attention as our populations continue to grow older and live longer in this new longevity economy. And we're going to be hearing a lot more about it. So first and foremost, you could be hacking off your potential or existing customers, and you might not even know you're doing it. So you've got to pay attention. Oh, and another thing, our attitudes or actions can also spread to other people in our spheres of influence if we aren't careful and conscious of our thoughts and actions. That means your peers, even your employees. They may not understand what they're doing or mean any harm by taking on your style of speech or the way you do things day to day. They may very well think it's okay or not even think about it at all. But if you're serving the same customers, the effects can be compounding. And ultimately, the worst thing that may happen is you contribute to people in your community feeling less of themselves than they should. That you unwittingly contribute to them becoming the frail person that you see in your head. And there's no way that any of us want that. So what do you do instead? I mean, you have to talk and work with these individuals. They're your market. Well, first, watch your thoughts as you're talking with people. Not just your customers, but everyone. Look for signs that you're allowing preconceived notions about what it means to be old to work their way into what you do, how you do it, or what you say. Challenge yourself to really see each person you come into contact with as an individual and shun the impulse to form ideas or opinions about them because they might be a certain age.
Yeah, good call. Number two, be mindful of your words. We all have a tendency to say things that might have an ageist slant. I mean, even in the most well-adapted language, we still hear things like older customers. So your takeaway is to start mindfully composing your words so that you're getting as far away from words like old or aging or anything that implies you're somewhere at a spot along that spectrum. That's kind of the starting point. Now, we've been working with a few of our clients to begin filtering out ageist words from their websites, hard copy literature, brochures, and even their conversations. It's a tough thing to do, even for us at times if we're not careful or we get complacent. But we know that by getting it rid of as much of that as possible, it's increasing your chance as a small business owner of having potential customers listen to what you have to say. Remember, we teach this all the time. Your goal is to be the trusted advisor, but you won't ever gain the trust of somebody who thinks that you have your mind made up about who they are ahead of time. You wouldn't trust that person, would you? Neither will they. Number 3, finally, talk with anyone you work with, your employees, your peers. Start a conversation about what ageism really is. Help other people you interact with to understand the possible impacts and spread that message we're talking about. We're talking about people, real folks, in the flesh, actual individuals, and ones who still matter at any and every age. They can contribute in a quality fashion to their own life and give back to society. Nobody is a feeble-minded, teetering old geezer that's on their way to a grave, right? And you would never say it the way I just said it, so quit implying it.
So true, Aaron. So true. Now, doing these things, that'll mean taking a stand at times to ensure that your business is age neutral or age friendly or inclusive. It's a way to not only endear yourself to them, right, to these customers, but also to contribute back to society by not being part of ageist behavior. Well, I think that's going to wrap us up for this week. I hope you've learned some things today or heard something that's inspired you. Have a great week, and until next time, be well, be bold, and boom your bottom line.